What is up guys, it's Troy at the Full Setup back with another review for you. Now just over a year ago I reviewed the Deepcool A-500, which was a dual 140 tower, absolutely monster performing CPU cooler which punched with the big boys over at Noctua. Now I absolutely loved that cooler and I was super praised about it in all the reviews. I said lots of very good things about it, but you haven't really seen it in any cases since that review. In fact, you probably can't see it, but it's just up on the shelf over there because it's something that I don't want to part with. And something that I don't want to ever sell to someone because I love that cooler. But there is a big problem with that cooler. It's massive. It is absolutely humongous. And if you are someone that takes your PCs apart all the time, loves to upgrade them, put new parts in them, if you're someone that's not doing that yearly or 2 yearly, if you're putting parts in every couple of months, it's a royal pain. It is such, it's more of an ass than it is an assassin because it gets in the way of your RAM. It's hard to get your GPU out. We'll talk about all of this a little bit later, because one thing I said in that review is I would love to see a single tower version of the Deepcool A-500, and here it is. This is the AS500, and this is essentially a baby little mini assassin free with some RGB slapped on the top, and it retails for about £55, and I'm going to talk about that price a little bit more at the end of the video. Now I've had the AS500 for a few weeks now, so for this review I'm just going to tell you about everything, how I've enjoyed it from the unboxing all the way down to the installation process, the RGB and how it performs. I've got lots of benchmarks as well to show you of this sort of thermal scores of this cooler, and it's already in the case over here. It's in the Matrix 70 case, and it fits rather well. It's quite surprised, which again we'll talk about a little bit in a minute. So let's talk about the unboxing. Now I do have a full unboxing and installation guide going live the same day of this video. The install guide is showing mainstream Intel and also AM4 installation as well. So if you want to know how to install this cooler and see everything that comes in the box, check out the link in the description below and you can check out that video. But as always, my Deepcool boxes, the ones they send from China before the product launches, always comes with dents and bangs on the corners. We need to get past this Deepcool, but I'll give you a massive pro. Anything that they've ever sent over to me for a build or it's been sponsored or something we've done for a giveaway that's come from the UK store, the box has been pristine. But yeah, my unboxy boxes are mostly crushed, but the cooler is really well packaged inside, and as well as the cooler you also get loads of mounting brackets, lots of gear, everything that you're going to need. So for Intel, it comes with an included back plate that you're going to have to use, and it comes with all the mounting stuff there. Also comes with all the little nuts for screwing into like 2011 and 2066, and it also comes with all the AM4 mounting installation. For the AM4 install you're going to need to use your included back plate on the motherboard. Now I normally really look forward to getting everything out the box of Deepcool coolers because I always expect some, like, they always just have a new accessory once every few months, and there wasn't everything in here. I was expecting to see the 4-fan PWM hub, but it's only got a single fan anyway, so that wasn't included. But there was actually a bracket for an extra fan as well, so I would have liked to have seen that little hub included, because not all motherboards are going to have a CPU header and an option header. And as well as that, you get some thermal paste, but I'm using my Arctic MX4 for all testing because that's what I've always used for testing coolers on the channel. And now, as well as all the mounting gear, you also get all of the RGB stuff. So you've got all of the connections if you want to connect to your motherboard headers. These are 5 volt. This is addressable A-RGB headers, which we'll cover later when I talk about the RGB and what do I think of the RGB on the cooler. And you also get an included controller as well if you haven't got a motherboard with an RGB header, or maybe all your headers are used up and you just want to run this one doing its own little thing. So moving over to the actual cooler then. Now I was actually really impressed with this because the Deepcool A-500 has 7 6mm heat pipes and the AS500 manages to fit 5 in somewhere. I was really surprised with this, and I think it is a very good looking cooler. Now I know a lot of you might be thinking, why hasn't it got an RGB fan? And that is because it's using their higher performance TF range of fans. So this one uses the TF120S fan. And this is something that you're going to want, because as much as all this RGB from Deepcool is very pretty and very nice, and I've always said it is terrific value for what you pay for it, it is very good value. The cooling performance is so-so, okay? Cooling performance is so-so. It's not the worst that I've ever tested, but it's by no means the best. So they could have gone with an RGB fan on the front, but I'm happy to see that they've used the TF140S fan. One thing I was a little bit confused when I was looking around the back of the box is because it says it's rated between 500 and 1200 RPM, and I was like, swear the Assassin 3 fans went black, they had more RPM than that, so they went all the way up to 1400 RPM, and I'm just surprised that they didn't include it here. Even in my tests though, when I did the Assassin 3, when I was running the fans at that lower 1200 RPM with the low noise adapter in there wasn't actually a huge thermal performance difference between running them maxed out. But I've always felt that that's because we were just coming into the limitation of what the cooler can shift. I feel for a single tower, I would have liked the option to have the higher RPM fan. Even though the cooling performance on this is fantastic, I would have liked to have that option. I think it would have been good to have that and the low noise adapter. And another thing as well, it's got that bracket for another fan, but I couldn't find one for sale anywhere. So let me know if you know somewhere you can buy the TF140S fans. Maybe I should have just asked Deepcool beforehand. But yeah, I couldn't seem to find one. So that's a little bit odd. But overall, I think the cooler looks very good. I'm not huge on the top black. It's nice that it's there because we've got the RGB going around the side, but I really do feel it needs a logo or something, which we'll talk about when we get over to the RGB. But all in all, it's a really nice looking tower cooler, and it doesn't interfere with any RAM. As you'll see if you go and look at the installation guide, I do some tests there with 4 sticks of RAM in, and it's not really gonna ever interfere. So how would I rate this cooler for installation? I would give it a 10. It's got a 10 for installation because you do not need to take the motherboard out before you install this cooler, okay? You don't need to take the motherboard out because you have the included back plate. You screw the nuts in, you put the bars on top, you tighten them down, and then you can put the cooler on. You know, something that, you know, it was Noctua that sort of pioneered all of that, and CryoRig do it really well as well. So this one, very happy with it. You don't need to hold a back plate, like be around the back of your case trying to put the cooler in. It's super easy. It is super easy. But one thing I would recommend with a 140 tower cooler is to take out your graphics card first. You're going to want to take your graphics card out because when I put the Assassin 3 in, when I removed it, when I was like, it's just in my way too much, I popped the fans out first so I could unscrew it. And what I didn't notice is how close it was to the GPU. I should have remembered because it was really hard to get to the little button on the PC. I don't know what I'm doing here, like that, you know what I mean? But real hard to get to the little button on your PCIe slot. And what I ended up doing is I took the fan clips off, and it scratched my RTX 2060. I had the dual, had this really nice white and black back plate on it, and you know how much I like my white and black builds as well, and it had a scratch all over it, which was just, I really did cuss the Assassin. It's probably why it's been in a box since, because that's one thing you need to look out for. So you'd want to take out your GPU first, but otherwise, you know, the installation, super easy to do, hooking everything up, hooking up all the RGB connections, nice and easy. Now the only thing you want to look out for as well with it being a 140 tower cooler is you need to make sure your case can fit it in. All right, you need to make sure it can fit in your case, and I didn't think it was going to fit in the Matrix 7 because this is a mid tower, but I would say it's like on the cusp. It's like the biggest of a mid tower, okay, because you can put a liquid cooler in the top and you can put a liquid cooler in the front. It's not full size, but it's a big mid tower. But I didn't think it was going to fit, and I thought I was going to have to put a disclaimer on the benchmarks that, you know, I've got the side panel off. I thought that's what we're going to have to do, but it fits very well. But you're going to want to make sure that it fits. So it's 165 millimeters. Yeah, 164 millimeters in dimension as well, and this is where it might be harder as well. It's still going to be close, even if your case says it can fit a 160, 165. Do you know what I mean? It's still, you know, it's going to be tight, especially if you've got glass panels, because you've got no flex in the panel there. Cases of yesteryear where you've just got the sort of like metal side panel, I've bent it before to get a 140 in, but you're going to want to measure that as well, and it measures 90 in width, you know, sort of tier to tier. But like I said, RAM clearance is good. So I'm happy. I'm massively happy with it over the Assassin 3. I know it's not going to perform as well thermally, which we'll take a look at in a minute, but yeah, really happy with that. Moving over to the RGB then, and that's where I think this cooler is a bit of a letdown. It did let me down a little bit. So I loved the Gamax GT. I said in that video, it is the perfect RGB centerpiece, especially if you didn't want a liquid cooler. If you wanted an air cooler in your case, and you wanted RGB, it was a perfect RGB centerpiece. And they released 2 versions of it. So there's one where it's just got a Deepcool logo written on it here, which doesn't look very nice. But the original one, the Gamer Store logo, whether it was in silver or black, it didn't matter which color you got it, it looked awesome. Like, it looked really, really good. My friend's got my old one of it now. He loves it, and he put it in his case, sending me loads of photos of it. It was absolutely beautiful. And this, it's just got, you've just got RGB around the side of it. Okay, it's subtle. That's what I'm going to say. It's subtle, but the problem is, now the 140 fan in there is pushed down as far as it can go. Like, it's on the screw, right? It's on the screw where you do all your installation. And if you put a second one in there, you can see on one side it cuts the RGB out. Let's just have a look. Can you see the case from here? Can you see in here what's going on? You can probably see I've got RGB in the front. You can probably see I've got RGB up in the top. You can see I've got that little GPU holder. You can see all that stuff. You can't really see any RGB coming out of the cooler. It's just, it needs something. It needs something in the middle here. But as for the connections, it is an A-RGB connection, okay? So for anyone that doesn't know what A-RGB is and what you need to look out for, I always have to put this in a video because so many people ask. So many people ask below. So these are 5 volt RGBs, meaning that they can show multiple colors at once, see? Multiple colors. Now, they're different from 12 volt RGB, let's say, for example, like the Deepcool RF, because they only show one color at a time. Now, neither are compatible with each other. You can't plug a 12 volt into a 5 volt, and you can't plug a 5 volt into a 12 volt. So you need to be checking on your motherboard, okay? You need to be checking whether it's the one you're going to buy or if it's the one you've got. Has it got 5 volt RGB headers? Okay, sometimes they're referred to as digital, sometimes they're referred to as rainbow, but you need to go and check. I can't keep going on motherboard sites for you, everyone, alright? It's thousands of people asking me to go on motherboard sites. You look yourself. You're going to have to go take a little look yourself. But if you have the digital header, you can sync this up with pretty much everything. ASRock Polychrome, MSI Mystic Light, Gigabyte RGB Fusion, Aurora Sync, and it's even, it's even Razer Chroma RGB. So I didn't actually know that Razer were doing the computers as well, like the internals. We obviously know that they do RGB products outside of the case, but I didn't know they were doing it inside, so I might test that out, and I probably do need to test that out actually, and should have before this review, because I'm using MSI Mystic Light and the effects are naff. That's what in the entire video and the B-roll you're just seeing there's one effect. I don't think there's very good digital effects there, but RGB Fusion by Gigabyte is probably the one that I would recommend to you the most, especially if you're building a new system. I wouldn't just buy your motherboard strictly on RGB. You need to make sure it's got all the other features first, but if it's got all the features, you know, if it's within budget, then I'd probably go Gigabyte and then Asus down. I personally prefer Asus motherboards as a whole, but if you're just strictly an RGB fanboy, you want to go Gigabyte RGB Fusion. But if you haven't got any of that, you can use the included controller, and the included controller's effects are loads better than what's going on in here with MSI Mystic Light. It's real simple. You just plug it into an eSATA port on your power supply and you're good to go. Now, one thing you might be thinking about is, how do I wire all this up if I want more going on? Do you want more of all this RGB going on? I'm actually running 7 fans, 1 GPU thing, and the CPU cooler. That's 8. Good maths there, good maths. So I'm running 8, all off one header. All off one header. So all I've got is 2 of the hubs plugged in together. Now, this doesn't actually come with the A-RGB HUD that Deepcool provide with their fans and with their coolers that have more than sort of 1 RGB device. But the great thing is with that is that I think it holds up to 5 or 6 RGBs, and then it's got an output on it, so you can plug another one of those hubs in. So don't panic. If you're looking at buying a load of Deepcool RGB gear, as long as it's all digital, or as long as it's all one color at a time stuff, they provide enough things. There will be enough stuff in all your boxes to get it all going, alright? I always tell people, stop panicking, but there's the RGB. But anyway, it's time for some benchmarks then. So like I said, we've got a Matrix 70F case here. I have 3 RGB fans in the front, these are the CFs, and 3 CFs in the top and 1 CF in the rear. Now, all of these fans are sort of set to be sitting around 800 RPM at most, to max out at about 1000 RPM. Now, as for the AS500, we're running it at its max 1200 RPM. We're running it at its max 1200 RPM for all this video. You can't hear it. If anything you're hearing is actually noise from the microphone, because this is a noisy microphone. This fan, silent, absolutely silent. So we're using that for stock and overclock tests in IDA 64, so that's going to be like a worst case scenario that you'll see in a minute. And as for the gaming tests, I've sold most of my graphics cards because I wanted a 3080 and couldn't get one. So we've only got a 1650 Super in here, so I'm going to test it at medium settings for Shadow of the Tomb Raider so we can push some higher frame rate, which is going to make more temperature on the CPU. And for the Battlefield test, we're running all at low settings, trying to push as many frames as we can, which is going to add more heat to our CPU. So here's the benchmarks. So there were the benchmarks then, and as you can see, it performs really well. Yes, we're only using a Ryzen 3600, but I'd have no problems putting this on an 8 core, possibly a 12 core, but you wouldn't be overclocking. And that's one thing as well. You know, maybe Ryzen 5000 can overclock real high, but fanboys have been hyping that up since first gen, and there's never been that much overclocking headroom. And you know, for all the extra voltage, for maybe having to run your fans at a higher speed, the price of the cooler, you're better off to just buy the X version than the non-X version and do overclocking. All right, there's not a massive point in it. Or do you know what I mean? Just buy faster memory, because that's where you'll get the performance out of Ryzen anyway. But still, you know, you want your case to look good, you want a good looking cooler in there, and that's why I think this would be very nice as well. It's not just in these larger mid towers, but let's just say in a full size tower, a 120 cooler isn't going to look very good in there. I know you should be buying a cooler based on cooling performance and what you need for your processor, but do you know what I mean? That is a big reason I like to build my PC in proportion. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a full size tower and some massive GPUs, a 120 cooler is going to look small. Do you know what I mean? But in an ITX, a 120 cooler is going to look large. You just build your PC in proportion. But I think the performance is very good there. It's enough for my needs. I'm actually going to put both of the fans off the Assassin 3 on this, and that's what I'm going to be using. I've sort of moved away from having liquid in the case. I don't know why, but I just like having air coolers in there. So if you're looking at this video in a few months time, once I've got the next gen Ryzen CPUs in my hands, because this is the test system that I use, do drop me a message, because if I put out any gaming videos or any benchmarks with it on, you know, the AS500 on a Ryzen 5000 CPU, I'll be more than happy to send you over the link for that. So, you know, pros and cons really. What are the pros? It performs well, it looks good. Yeah, they are the pros. I've got nothing really massively bad to say about it, but we will get to those points. The installation, super nice on the installation. Actually, the improved AM4 bracket, which I probably didn't mention, so it does use the backplate for AM4, but the one thing that I really liked, well, I found with the older ones, is that they used to sort of wiggle about a little bit, the AM4 brackets on Deepcool coolers. They're using like new nuts now to lock into it, so it's almost sort of like a recess, like a female connection with some plastic around it, so it doesn't scratch your motherboard. So you don't have to put any stickers on, which is great, because I always forget to put them on because I'm too lazy. So yeah, it's solid now. It's solid. It's good that they've sorted that out. It's not that the AM4 bracket on their previous stuff was bad. Like, the cooler was always in place, but I always felt sometimes I could just nudge it a little bit, even when it was fully tightened. So that was a little complaint that I had, so that's been massively improved as well. But let's get over to the cons then. So this may be a con for some people. As mentioned, it doesn't have an RGB fan, but I'm telling you, you want these TF fans on there. And for me, the con, like I said, it's the RGB. It just doesn't stand out enough. Like I said, if you want subtle, it's perfect for you, but I don't want subtle. I want centerpiece, and it's not quite a centerpiece. It needs something in there. Like the GPU holder, the way that lights up, you've got all these lines, do you know what I mean? It looks very sci-fi-y. I would love that. I would love that going up across here. I think it would look perfect. I think it would look very nice. So yeah, like I said, by the time you put a second fan on there, you're not really going to notice that it lights up. It's just going to look like a big black lump in there. It's not going to look, yeah, it's not going to light up. It needs a bit more. It needs a bit more light on a revision. That's what I would say. Needs a bit more light, and the price as well. I'd say £55 is up there at the top that it should be at. Anything more and it's a no buy. I would personally like to see this come down to £45. I think it's a little bit too expensive what it is. I know that generally when RGB coolers first come out, or just CPU tower coolers, they're generally, from any brand, I always find they're marked up sort of like 10 to 20% more than they should be, and then you see that price sort of come down. It's like, I don't know, maybe if it's just a new release cash grab, and then later on down the line they put it in price with everything else. Okay, so, you know, you look at the new thing, you're happy to pay a bit more for it, but it's very close in price to the Assassin 3. I can get an Assassin 3 for £65. You know, it's offers, you know, it's like double the metal, isn't it? It's double the metal. So yeah, the price needs to come down a little bit, but I would recommend it, especially if you didn't want the Assassin 3 because it's too big and you upgrade, but you didn't want water cooling either, and you wanted a real nice performing air cooler that you could run with 2 fans. The AS500 has got you covered and is an absolutely top performer. Anyway, that's it from me today. If you like the video, leave a like. If you really like the video, make sure you subscribe, and I'll be back with some more videos very soon.